Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with part 4 of the West Indies 4-day championship. Can we even call it a preview show when we are on day 3 of the competition already? But we'll still call it the preview show. We've already given you Barbados, Guyana, and Trinidad, and now it's the turn of my homeland. It's time for the Jamaica Scorpions. Santoki, my partner in crime, is with me as ever. Santoki, note how I've not even mentioned the scorecard currently versus Trinidad.
Wait, you know what? I've been looking forward to this one for a while now, Mash. I know it's an emotional one for you. Jamaica Scorpions, nobody's given them a chance. Let's see if they can prove everyone wrong this season. And we've got a special guest on to analyse the squad, Mash.
Yeah, no doubt. If you're a long-time fan of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, our guest today has actually been on the podcast before. There was an episode I did sometime late in 2020, I think it was, and it was with Garfield Robinson and today's guest, Jerome Foster, where we spoke all things cricket, particularly, in fact, we had that episode when Marlon Samuels had come out and he'd cussed out Ben Stokes. So that's when Jerome was last on. But good to have you back on the podcast, Jerome. Sports journalist with Radio Jamaica, TVJ. Jerome, how you doing?
I'm great. I'm great. Much here. Afternoon to you. Well, good night to you, Santoki, as well. First time here with you, but it's a pleasure already, just by the introduction.
So, Jerome, you know what? As we've done with the experts from Barbados, Trinidad, and Guyana, we're going to break it down. We're going to get into it. And listen, Jerome, boy, I don't know where to start, Jerome. When the Scorpions released the squad, I was baffled. I'm not sure, to be honest, I'm not even sure what I was expecting, but I was just baffled, Jerome. There's a lot of names there that, unless it's somebody like you who actually keenly follows Jamaican cricket, there's lots of names there that your average Caribbean fan, they're just going to look at the names and go, who? So before we come to you with the questions, let's just read out the squad to remind people. Captain John Campbell, Alwyn Williams, Jermaine Blackwood needs no introduction, Leroy Lugg, Rain Williams, Romaine Morris, Gordon Bryan, Paul Palmer, Jamie Merchant, Marquino Minley, Nicholson Gordon, Derval Green, Patrick Harty, Kirk McKenzie, Brad Barnes. Santoki, boy. And the thing is, though, Santoki, this team beat Ireland. Let's just remember, though, that Jamaica did beat Ireland prior to the West Indies losing to Ireland. So let's not cuss them out too much, because the List A team did beat Ireland. But Santoki, what do you make of that squad?
Listen, Mash, I was looking at this squad. I'm going to take an example. Leroy Lugg. I'm going to be honest. I've never heard of this guy. You've obviously gone with him as an opener. I went on to ESPN to look at his history. It's basically a 10-year gap in his career. He played in the under-19s in 2013, and then he played in that famous Jamaica win over Ireland last month. But I'd like to know from Jerome, for instance, let's get started. Leroy Lugg, what has he been doing since under-19 levels to warrant himself getting into this Jamaica setup?
Yeah, it would probably strike caravans and people like you as a surprise. Even to me, it wasn't. But in our senior cup competition here in Jamaica, which is the level of cricket here, he has been doing well for Kensington Cricket Club, the famous Kensington Cricket Club, the one that produced people like Wavelines and so on. However, in the final trial game, he did score 100. So that probably gave the selectors something to think about. He has also represented the country at all the youth levels, under 15 and 17. He has played in the university competition with UTEC, and UTEC also plays University of Technology, that is. They play in the senior cup competition, but he actually finished school, so now he's at Kensington as his parent club. But it's not a surprise, because to me, the Scorpions have been stand opener for some time. They tried so many combinations the last time the competition was staged, and it didn't work. They used Alwyn Williams, they used Orion Williams, they used at once. I think Brandon King was at the top at one at the time. So it was always John Campbell. Kennard Lewis was there at once. So it's always John Campbell and somebody else. So I think the selectors have just made a bold choice here that this man scored a century in the final warm-up game. So let's just give him a chance, because I don't think there's much to lose in this season based on how the tournament is set up. It's not a full-on 4-day season. So you're probably just going to give them some experience for the other years.
That actually makes sense, you know. When you put it in that context, that makes sense in so much as well. It's a 5-round competition. Let's just see. And actually, when Jamaica was struggling on day one of the game versus Trinidad, obviously we were bowled out for 144. I was watching on the live stream, and I was in the comments speaking to some of the Jamaican fans, and I think I made a passing comment that said this Jamaican team looks like the selectors. It's almost like a team in transition, where they're trying to bring through the whatever they think is the next generation of Jamaican talent, but they're just missing some of their like obviously Brandon's not there, Nkrumah's not there. So it looks like a weaker squad because the two main bats, Campbell and Blackwood, aren't really surrounded. If you want to call Paul Palmer experience, call him experience. But you get my drift, Jerome. It's not like they've got majorly established batsmen there.
Yeah, that's well, in terms of Paul, I think he did well in 2020. He scored like 430 plus runs. So he comes back with that on his back. But I get the point that you're making, and some coach Andre Coley has stressed as well, that previously in this franchise setup from the inception, the Scorpions have been unsure as to what they really want to do. Is it that they want to win the title or they want to develop players? And I think he has come in with this mantra that he wants to bridge the gap between the players who have played under 19 for the country and even for the West Indies to give them more opportunities. Because over the years, even in our dominant period between 2012 between 2007 and 2012, when we won that 5 straight with Tamar Lambert and Nikita Miller, Odin Brown, Danza Hyatt, that core of players, it was almost as if there was no plan in place to facilitate the growth of other players who were coming through our system. And I think Coach Coley now is trying to change that, because even in that dominant period, the only player who basically came through was Jermaine Blackwood, and then John Campbell at the back end when Brenton Parchment and the others weren't available anymore. So now people like Kirk McKenzie, who I have a lot of time for, he scored some runs in the under 19 in 20 with Jaden Seals. That would have been 2020. He is somebody on the fringes who they're looking towards taking a next step. Right? He's a talent that they can develop. They don't want to lose the talent. And another thing as well, I'm probably going Australia a little bit based on the question.
No, I'm loving this. Carry on, man.
Is that many of our players here in Jamaica, when they play youth cricket, it's almost as if they're forgotten. So you end up as if you're hearing them playing in the States, and then 10, 11 years after, you ask about them and they say, oh, I was playing in the Atlanta League or the US Open, or we're trying to find a source of income to keep our mentality alive, because to them, the system is broken here. They're not getting the same chance. Like, for example, in Guyana or Barbados, or even the Windward Islands, you see Teddy Bishop being elevated immediately out of the under-19 into the senior team. You're not seeing that in Jamaica. We're not seeing that. It's as if they're scared to give the youth a chance. And I think in this squad, even though I don't expect a lot from the team based on the composition and the inexperienced nature of the team, I love the look of it with the likes of Brad Barnes, who played under-19 cricket for the West Indies in 2018. Romain Morris, who just finished UE. The same Kirk McKenzie, Leroy Lugg getting an opportunity. I think he's a little bit out of sorts technically based on what I saw. He's a little bit scared of the pace based on what I saw. But you can see where Andre Coley wants to take the team. You can see, because when you have people like Bonner coming back in and probably people like King, who I think need some red ball cricket, you probably can harness a decent squad that can probably build on for 3-4 years, because they didn't sign anybody outside of Jamaica for this year.
Santoki, you can see why I got Jerome on, yeah?
Yeah, listen. No. It's been a real insight into sort of players who, as we said at the top of the show, a lot of people in the region won't know about. Let's talk about players who haven't been included in the squad. Obviously, we've got the big names: Brandon King and Nkrumah Bonner, Rovman Powell. They haven't been included. Is there anyone else who you feel should have been in the squad who wasn't included?
At this point, I would probably say Pete Salmon, but I understand his technical issues. He was called for throwing in the last season, so they are doing some remedial work on him. I would love to see Jabor Royal as well. A left-arm spinner. I think he's a little bit better than Patrick Carty Jr., but I guess it's continuity with Patrick Carty Jr. because he didn't get a lot of games in the last season, and he didn't get a lot of overs as well. I don't think the captain, John Campbell, utilizes him very well. He normally gives him the ball when the team is almost out of the game. And because you're not batting so well, it's as if he has trust issues in giving him the ball very early. So he's overly dependent or reliant on the likes of Minley and Nicholas Gordon, who, interestingly, in 2020, he wasn't in the original team. Mind you, he wasn't in it. He played a game. He came in as a pay for play. That's how they term it. And he took 5 wickets. And then after that, he just transformed his career. He did it against the Irish as well in the
I was just about to say.
So things like these, you get the opportunity to expose some talent. And Nicholas Gordon has been around the block for some years. And he's a little, I think he's about 30, 31 now. So he is somebody who probably thinks that he should have been in and around the setup for some time. But because of the transitionary period here in Jamaica, which I blame on the club system for one, and the people who are running the cricket, some of these talented players don't get enough opportunity or are not trusted enough to get more game time for the franchise.
Another left arm spinner actually who done well in 2020, Dennis Bully. He's not been included. Is it someone a case of he's now past that age when they're looking to include him and they've sort of moved on from him?
They've always wanted a wrist spinner. I know chairman of selectors Junior Bennett is very, very interested in having a leg spinner. But I think the thing with Bulai is that he's not consistent in red ball cricket. He bowls a little bit too many bad balls for my liking. I watched a game against the Guyana, well, they're Harpy Eagles, no, but they were Jaguars then in Trelawney. And he did both, even though it took some wickets, almost as if they came from mistakes from the batsman. He wasn't probing enough. And probably it's a difficulty of bowling left-arm Chinaman. I think everybody knows how difficult that is to have a control. So that is probably the reason why he's not in the team. They spoke to Junior Bennett recently as well, and he's still looking for that option of having a wrist spinner in the team. So I don't think Bulai is out of the picture for now. But he's always on the periphery in terms of Jamaican cricket because he always dominates senior cup cricket here as well.
Jerome, one player that Santoki and I were interested in when Jamaica played Ireland, Mansingh. I think Mansingh was playing. Can't remember his first name now, but he was playing for Jamaica. Was he? Do you think he was ever on the radar, or is he somebody you think we should watch out for in the future?
I think for 4-day cricket, I actually had a thought that he would have been in and around the setup because I think his style of batting actually suits this format. Probably a little bit young and inexperienced, and probably needs some more senior cup cricket, possibly. And this is where I probably want an under-23 West Indies team to be implemented, which is another situation again, mind you. But he is somebody that they're looking at. At one stage, Coach Kohli actually had him in and around the setup in 2020 as a possible opening option. You remember the amount of options I raised earlier. So he was in that pool of possible options, but he didn't make the cut this time. I guess Lugg's 100 in the warm-up game basically propelled him there. And Mansingh actually bowls leg spin as well as a part-timer. He was in the Jamaica Talawa squad as well for the last campaign.
Yeah. And then, I mean, obviously, let me just look at as we're recording this, obviously, Jamaica are playing Trinidad. I mean, we're currently 202 for 9. We lead by 71 runs on day 3. No one has hit a 50 in the match for Jamaica. Mindley's taken a fifer. Gordon took 4. But who are the players? If you had to, in fact, let's just look at these first 2 rounds. Is there anybody in this Jamaican team? I assume the answer is no, but is there anyone where you'd say, you know what, you can possibly play yourself into an outside chance of West Indies selection? Jermaine, forget Jermaine Blackwood. We know about Jermaine, but is there anyone else? Do you think John Campbell's got it within him to force a reselection, or do you think someone like a Campbell, it doesn't matter how many runs he makes, his time is done for now?
And I think that would be sad if that is the case with John, if the selectors have already given up on him, because I think his technical flaws can be fixed, and it gives you a dynamic opening option if you just get him to concentrate on his off stump and understanding where his off stump is, because that is his biggest problem right now. He doesn't know where his off stump is, and I think that can be fixed. I don't think it's an outlandish issue that you can't get him back in and around the setup. Campbell, I think, is at this point the only person who in the 15 or 16 that you could possibly say is close to getting a West Indies call-up. Remember, he was dropped for the South Africa series, but he was also injured in the best of the best game before that series. So he didn't get an opportunity per se to show that he was deserving the drop, even though his test scores didn't really match up to his potential. I think Marquino Mindley, though, is somebody that you can look at, because remember, he toured in England.
He was part of the extended squad, wasn't he? Yeah,
exactly. So he's on the fringes, and he's played 18 cricket as well for the West Indies. So he's probably the next best option at this point if somebody is to break into the West Indies team.
Yeah, so let's to wrap up, let's talk about a big story coming out. So Nkrumah Bonner, he obviously was chosen for the ODI squad in India. He didn't play a game. Would you have rather seen him feature in his Jamaica squad for these 2 rounds? What do you make of that decision to take him to India and not play him?
Yeah, I found it very strange not to give him a game, because the fact that the chairman of selector, or the lead selectors, Desmond Haynes, basically said that they wanted to ensure that they covered all the bases. And for the fact that the West Indies have been struggling to about 50 overs for the last 3 series, if you count the Australia series back in Barbados, he's somebody who can occupy the crease. I know that his strike rate might be an issue in 50 over cricket, but the fact that we're not getting close to batting 50 overs, I don't think his strike rate will be much of a problem if you can get him to spend some time at the crease and have the hitters around him. So I was surprised that he didn't get an opportunity to bat. But when I look, the only place in the team you would probably think that he could bat is in the middle in 50 over cricket, based on how the dynamics of that is, because you need power players at the top to maximize the 2 fielders outside and all of that in 50 over cricket. I was thinking he would probably bat at 4 or 3 and give some more assurances to the middle order, because I believe we're playing 1 all-rounder too many based on how the West Indies team is. I would have given him that option, but then the fact that Darren Bravo is the last batsman to score a century for the West Indies in ODI cricket, believe it or not, against Sri Lanka, despite his poor run, I think him not being able to play against Ireland, you have to give him another go as an extended run, which was the India series. And now that it didn't really work out, and it looks a little bit of sorts in my estimation. His foot is not moving, his eyes not getting close to the ball, his hands is throwing at the ball. You'd probably think in the 3rd game that Bonner could have gotten a chance, but the selectors might have been looking at give Bravo that extended run and see what happens. If he doesn't get it, we have to make some changes, because now Super League points are at stake, and you can say legitimately that you gave him an extended run before you make the decision of not selecting him for the next series, which I don't think is a bad thing. Not because Bonner is there now, it means automatically he has to be in the 11, because you need to give players the chance to fail. You have to give them the chance to fail. We're in a position now, as sad as it sounds, we have to give the players a chance to fail. Because if they play 1 game, they don't get a good score, you can't throw them away. It's not going to help them. Their confidence is going to be derailed. And it's the same thing when you look around the world in other teams. Not because if they have a talented player or a player that they believe is good enough to come good at the international scene or on the international scene, they give them time. For example, Cameron Green for the Australians. He struggles in first innings. But they don't just throw him away because they see that potential in him that he can do some damage in the long run. He's young to the game. So what I don't want the selectors to do is to get impatient because there's pressure because we're not winning the ODI games. We've been struggling in ODI cricket for almost 15, 20 years. So it's not a new thing. It's not a new thing. It's a long thing. It's something that needs some refining. So Bonner being there now, you probably get that sense of feeling that, hey, somebody's here to challenge me. Somebody's here to replace me if I'm not performing because this man is doing well in Test cricket. So he's an option. And we need options. As even though the resources are small, we need options. So I don't think it's a massive issue for the Scorpions that he's not here. I think it's good that he goes on to play for the West Indies because it gives another chance to a youngster and it makes the franchise look as if they're doing something.
Yeah, that last point's quite key. I mean, it's a double-edged sword. You bring Bonner back, and maybe that makes Jamaica stronger. You don't have him, you get to blood the youth and see who can fit into, who's got the potential, who can actually maximize the potential that we're gambling on, so to speak. So, Jerome, the question that Santoki has asked everybody. In fact, Santoki, I'll let you answer it.
Yeah, go on,
Santoki.
I want to hear this one. So, Jerome, we've asked every guest so far to name the two teams who they think will finish top of the regional table come the end of the season. So far, everyone's named their own island. It's up to you whether you want to back Jamaica on this one, be confident on Bosi, or if you want to go for two other teams. But I'm giving it up to you. Pick your two teams.
I would be committing suicide if I do that. I don't think that is fair.
Listen, his reputation will be finished.
Yeah, I honestly think that they can finish third at best. I think third at best is where I see them in terms of the talent pool. I think Guyana and Barbados are the better teams at the moment. I think they are far superior to everybody else in terms of how they play 4-day cricket. Trinidad is in a rebuilding phase. They have some good talent there. But I don't know how much they will be missing some of their people like Jaden Sears and Shannon and so on when they go off for West Indies duties after the English tour. So that is probably the part that is going to be the sticking point because I think without your main pieces in Barbados' team, they're still going to be a strong team because they have a good cadre of fast bowlers. People like Keon Harding, who is on the fringes. Shamar Holder, and now you see Shamar Springer getting a half century in the first innings of their game, which is something that West Indian fans would love to see based on his heroics in under-19 cricket. So I don't have the Scorpions finishing top two. I don't want to sound as if I am irrational. I'm going to be as unbiased as possible. I say that the Scorpions are finishing third.
I'm surprised you've even gone third, you know. If we finish third, then I'm taking that the same as winning the competition. But listen, Jerome, it's been fantastic getting you on. And for those who are listening to this when we drop it on the YouTube, Jerome, where can people find you? I don't even think you're on social media, you know.
At Jerome_Foster 37 on Twitter.
There you go.
Yeah.
At Jerome_. Wait, what did you say?
Jerome_Foster 37.
Yeah, there you go, people. Jerome_Foster 37. Go and follow Jerome, people. And one of the reasons to follow Jerome, if you haven't already picked up in this episode, is we often say at the Caribbean Cricket Podcast that if you just have a narrow focus on West Indies cricket as just being the West Indian national team, the men's team, women's team, whatever it might be, you're not properly understanding what's going on. You have to understand what is going on region, territory by territory, and what is working or not working with the game. And there's no one better for me in Jamaica to talk to in terms of understanding the Jamaican game than Jerome Foster. So go and follow Jerome, people. If this is the first time you're hearing him on our podcast because you didn't hear in 2020, go and follow him because that's the hookup to understand Jamaican cricket. Thank you so much for coming on, Jerome. Much appreciated.
It was a pleasure. Thanks again, Marshall. And Much respect, Santoki. Blessings.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's been the Jamaica Scorpions. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you and good night.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rules seems coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.